Man, oh man, hope you guys are all doing well on this fine early morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you guys are around the world. I have not had a sip of coffee yet, so I'm a dry dog going into this one. And someone else who dogged last night, that's going to be Crimsix tearing one in to the Toronto Ultra. This is going to be a very important video and probably one that's going to have some heavy discussing points. If you guys want to leave a comment down below your thoughts, I would greatly appreciate that, so I know, what exactly you guys think about these very serious issues. That involving contracts, that involving player treatment, that also involving a Canadian esports podcast who Crimsix really got ticked off by. I want to give you guys my truth, my opinion on this. I don't think the clip I'm going to play for you guys was that bad, but what it provoked out of Crimsix showcased some very bad things, possibly from Toronto Ultra. So in this clip I'm going to play for all of you guys, this is what sent Crimsix on a reel about some mishaps by Toronto Ultra last year.
This is kind of what makes me think of that. It's the Friendship League. If you have Looting on there, see, he gave no reason.
He used to play with Gunless. He used to play with
It literally is that. Like, there's no reason why he should be picked up this year. He gave us no reason to keep him on the team on Ultra. And I think that the other people out there that perform better than him that didn't get a spot.
Yeah, and people are sitting there going like, sorry, I'm cutting you off, but just because I want to give you, because some people are like, what? It's Looney. How did you see him in 2018? Well, like, some people are like, yeah, like, he was a monster on 4v4. I was like, man, he was a monster 2 years ago when he was, 25, not 28 on World War II, which is arguably an extremely different game than one we're currently going to be playing. Like, that's not a good enough reason to pick him up, in my opinion. That's so risky. Like, since, like, age obviously plays a part, the game mechanics play a part, new talent coming in plays a part. Like, how are you, like, this team should have been after John. This team should have been after young SMG players like Pred and Hydra and Fire, and maybe they will. Maybe their sub spot is going to be somebody pretty good who they think can supplement, because between Pristini and Looney, I think you're lucky if one of those guys hits, and there's a potential they might need 2 or 3 subs on that team. So it's extremely risky, although if it works, Octane and Gunless, and if Looney, the leadership is there and he can keep Gunless in check, and Pristini is sort of a really good player who a lot of people think he is, it's a good team. But damn, is that risky.
And again, I just want to say, I don't find that clip very bad. What Crimsix revealed is the bad stuff. And really quickly, I want to talk on the esports pro player age, them calling Looney old, whether 27, 28 years old. I will give them a bit of credit there. I think we have kind of become so commonly used to pro players retiring by 24, 25, 26. We're also so used to younger pro players now entering the scene at 14, 15, 16 years old, especially in the Fortnite scene. And we're seeing younger and younger pros in the Counter-Strike scene, Call of Duty as well. I think a lot of us are used to seeing those young numbers, and so when you see someone turn 28, I'll kind of compare him to like a Guardian from CSGO. You instinctively think, oh, they must be too old. I think we're gonna hopefully understand this season that still these guys are in their prime. If they are 26, 27, 28 and still can compete, that'll certainly be a question to kind of analyze over the course of this season as we see older and older Call of Duty pros. Now, what Crimsix did actually reveal in his tweets, you guys got to go check it out in full, because it's pretty disturbing if it is true. This is Crimsix's words and thoughts, not any of my own. But man, it seems bad. As he first stated, this just pissed me off. 1, Looney makes the people around him better, an often ignored attribute in Call of Duty because it cannot be quantified. 2, Ultra 4-star roster of 10 to stay in Toronto in the middle of a pandemic, threatening to not pay non-starters if they went home. He continued by saying, despite winning the Toronto home series leading to champs, Brack, who has never played a single league match, had to fight Ultra to return home for his grandpa's open heart surgery. There was absolutely no chance he would have been subbed in. So the severity of that, Ben, you have non-starters, you have a squad who just won their first title together, so obviously subs likely not to be used the next event, and you're threatening to pay those non-starters who, likely again, according to Crimsix, will not be joining the starting lineup at any time. You're threatening to cut their pay if they leave to go home during a pandemic. Now, this is definitely a debatable topic out there. We saw a lot of esports organizations and teams out there crumble during a pandemic where players wanted to return home or couldn't return home, or their home was, a safer place than where they were currently operating with their organization. It gets even worse, though, when you can pretty much confirm that Brack was not going to be entering the starting lineup, not playing a single league match, and yet he had to actually beg to go home for his grandpa's open heart surgery. Now morality has entered the discussion. And he went on by saying there's rumors that these clowns are wanting a 50-50 prize winning split from their team next year while underpaying them. If the prize split goes up, so must the salary. This is the exact opposite of what they're doing. One of the most anti-player organizations I have seen. And that right there is, that could cause a stir as well. If they are truly offering 50-50 prize pool split for their contracts to players out there. If you guys don't know, I would say a standard is probably 70-30, if not closer to an 80-20 split. We see some teams out there even giving more to their players, which is pretty remarkable. I will say it's a business, right? Of course, these organizations are going to try and make money. Typically, though, when it comes for prize pool earnings, a majority of that, in most cases, is going to be going to players. I have not really seen a 50-50 many places, or at least the very, very few contracts we have heard out there. Even worse, this is a direct reference back to what Crimsix actually alluded to at the end of this past season, where he was talking about contracts and saying he would never sign a 50-50 contract. A lot of people out there are wondering what teams could he possibly be talking about. It seems he was at least hinting at Toronto Ultra being one of those teams. He goes on to clarify it was never Hex, it was never Hastro, it was never Jason Lake with Complexity that would do these terrible of contracts, and he himself stated if he was an owner, he would give 100% prize pool earnings to his players. So that is certainly connected to what he is bringing up now, but when it comes to Toronto Ultra and the way they have treated their players in the past and what they seemingly, how they want to treat their players in the future, overall, it's a pretty terrible look for a franchise league and a franchise team entering their second season to have this happen. It's shaky. Crimsix later on did state the org side was that they've already heard this grandpa excuse to go home. It was from Classic, which I'm 95% sure I'm remembering correctly, but this grandpa actually passed away. They literally thought that Brack was making up some BS. There was zero reason to hold him in Canada. But let's also remember we have not heard the Toronto Ultra side of things. If they are going to respond to this, man, I don't know if they're going to respond to a guy like Crimsix, who has potentially exposed a lot of dealings inside that organization. Imagine being Ultra waking up this morning. They're in similar time zones as a lot of Americans out there. Imagine they're just going, what the frick, eh? All of a sudden, there's a Canadian esports podcast, no connection to our organization at all, and it led to Crimsix just spewing everything out there last night. I can imagine they're probably going through it right now. We will see if they do respond. Again, the guys in that podcast, to me personally, didn't make too terrible of points out there. Just some criticism of that newer lineup that we saw with the Seattle Surge, but we'll see how that Surge roster does do. It's just kind of crazy, that little age debate. Heated Crimsix leads to a bunch of other things that we are now going to talk about probably for the next couple of weeks. What do you guys think about that? Toronto Ultra in the past potentially mistreating their players in ways that other organizations would not, potential 50-50 future contracts, and give you guys one last thing to go off as well. When you do not allow your players to go home, return home during a pandemic, you put yourself in a very, very risky and very controversial position. Just give you guys an example of a guy like Hex, right? He didn't make Formal leave LA even before the pandemic, during the pandemic, and even COD Champs, he let Formal stay in LA as he rejected a private jet, during a pandemic, because you don't know the risks of that said virus and pandemic. They're very, very different ways of operation right there, guys. We will see if Toronto Ultra does respond. I'm going to take my first sips of coffee and really enjoy it. Hope you guys do the same, or with water, or with whatever beverage you guys choose, all right? Take care of yourselves. I'll see you back here sometime soon. Bye.